Anyway, it is the 16th of July, and on this day, voters in all Kalou are on the ballot to pick a new member to represent them in the National Assembly. Polls opened at 6 a.m. They're set to close at 5 p.m. and thereafter, counting will begin, and then tallying at the constituency tallying center, where the boss of the constituency elections, and that is the returning officer, will then announce the result and say, so-and-so got these marks and declare the winner. There are candidates, 9 candidates in this by-election. There are men and a woman in that by-election. The woman is in PDP. Progressive is called People's Democratic Party. Rachel Njoroge is the candidate. Now we have Arnold Maliba, who is a governance and everything consultant, who is joining us. Right? In terms of politics, the last time we were talking to you, in your position as a leader of a political party, please remind Kenyans where you sit in the political spectrum of this country.
When I was here last, even though not physically this place, I was in Linda Mananchi, and we've not moved since.
Linda Mananchi is not a party. Which party?
No, generally, the country has got about 3 centers of gravity today, politically. So you have got broad-based, that has got, of course, the cocktail that has got ODM, UDA, and everything Kenya Kwanza.
Cocktail is a fun choice of word. It's definitely that.
And then, of course, there is the United Opposition.
Yes.
That has got, of course, the former deputy president as the preeminent leader. He has got the former vice president, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, Eugene, Matiang'i, and the others. And then the Linda Mananchi Brigade is automatically a standalone center of gravity, because you can realize that at some point it's getting into spaces that make both government and opposition a little bit uncomfortable. And I see the possibility, not possibility, but I see coming days where there is going to be a little bit of closing of ranks between some elements in government and united opposition to just deal with Linda Mananchi, because Linda Mananchi is national. It's actually a political megatrend already, and it's threatening the traditional spaces of how people have actually done politics. So you expect a little bit of, not a little bit, but some very good discomfort on both ends. But that's how politics works around, and that's where we are.
And as they keep saying, it's early days yet. It's early days yet. Mapema. Karibu sana, Arnold. First, Valaris is going to give you the day's quote.
Karibu sana, Arnold. Today's quote is courtesy of a man that was a British scholar. His name is Josiah Charles Stamp. And the quote reads, "It's easy to dodge our responsibilities, but we cannot dodge the consequences of dodging our responsibilities." It's easy to dodge our responsibilities, but we cannot dodge the consequences of dodging those responsibilities.
It's so interesting because today is, being 16th July, is also the World Snake Day.
World
Snake Day.
Oh, the snake has a day?
So this, when you talk about being sly, about actions, and then of course the consequences, it could be a snake day in very many ways, not just the saying, but also in all Kalou. We do not know which side will actually be playing snake. But be that as it may, can I just use that particular quote and anchor it in what's happening today? That by-elections are local in competition, but they are national in consequence. So of course we can pretend that it's a local fight. It's all the sons of Kalou who are actually beefing, but the consequence is national. Same would apply to when it comes to responsibilities. A lot of times we run away from having conversations, and I always say this, that the reason why we find it so easy to fight is because dialogue is difficult. People thought that you guys sitting here to talk is easy. There's somebody somewhere who thinks, okay, journalism is easy, you guys sit around here, you play around with words. Talking is so difficult. That's why fighting is so easy. It's been about 4 years in Ukraine, and guys are still fighting. And you guys are talking about people who ran away, went to Poland. And there is no equality when it comes to when everything is shaking, then men have to be men. So you're being told we can receive your women and children, but you guys go back home. So I think probably I've tried to anchor that.
I like that you've anchored it that way, and it's taken my mind to something that happened a couple of days ago, which was the ramp up to the final day of campaigns in Kalou. That was over the weekend. Rigathi Gachagua came out strongly asking Linda Mananchi to stay away from Kalou because he considered that a local issue, a local campaign. It is not, you're not needed here.
You have no dog in the race.
Yes.
Is it horse or dog?
Horse in the race. And also, if you want to come campaign for somebody else, no problem. But us guys have our business handled, and you're speaking in capacity of DCP, but also, in a way, gatekeeping. A faction that is part of the opposition outfit. And I'll go back to something you said. It's a local matter with national consequences. How do you read that situation?
You see, the party leader, the DCP party leader, of course, was being disingenuous when he says that it's a local issue. He knows too well. He's actually a seasoned politician. When I say he's a seasoned politician, public administrators, whether you're a DC, a DO, a PC, or an RC, those people actually do proper politics. Those are the people who know how to do politics. So he's been around there. He's been a member of parliament. He's been a deputy president. So he knows too well that the explanation that he gave publicly was not the real explanation. Because he knows that, a by-election normally is a barometer for the public mood. He knows that a by-election, as much as it's local at the competition level, the consequences are always national. So for him, he used, of course, the excuse about it being local, and that the sons of Kalou, the sons and daughters of Kalou will actually be sorting out their issues. But he knows that even if, or rather, were Linda Mananchi to actually come on the ground, even their visit was going to a local issue, but with national consequence. So this is my reading of why he did what he did. It speaks to where we are now headed. Where I come from, they say that the bull that will be big is actually seen while it's still young. You can actually just see a few days old bull and say this one would actually be a serious one. So Linda Mananchi, of course, has morphed into something much bigger than what everybody thought of it. So you can actually see that the way the United Opposition was organizing its politics was such that Latif, you hold your corner, you hold the tail, I hold the leg, and then together we bring down the elephant. So militarily you would say probably Linda Mananchi was, not Linda Mananchi, but United Opposition was doing what we will call a first line operation. That you take bits and bits until you have got the entire whole. But then Linda Mananchi's logic and how they are operating is what we will call the surge operation. Or concentration of force. So you are hitting the whole thing all together. You are bringing demolition. Then if you are to take over Nairobi, for example, you start from Lolongo, for example, and sweep across the city all the way to Kabete on the other side and bring down the city. So that's why you see Linda Mananchi is all over. And there are people who are in Wiper, and that is, I think, is going to be problematic. There are people in Wiper who are in Linda Mananchi. There are people in Jubilee who are in Linda Mananchi. There are people, at some point, there were people from DCP who are also in Linda Mananchi. By the way, there are people in broad-based government who are also members of Linda Mananchi. But
Come on,
to that particular end, they support. They support
for now.
they support through other means, and then of course.
When time comes.
Yeah, but you see, Linda Mananchi is now concretizing, and the practice of politics in this country, at least as we head to the general election, demands that you must have a political party or a political coalition. So Linda Mananchi already has got a figurehead of what you would call a presidential candidate. And there is no shortcut to that. They must have a presidential candidate. That, of course, then brings in a little bit of challenges. And that's where you find now the DCP party leader being a little bit of uncomfortable. Because he, of course, wants to keep the highway to the mountain. And every entrance, he has to take care of it. But something else, I am not saying this out of authority, but I just need to mention this. That I do not think that Irungu Kangata was the problem. Of course, when we tried to ask, we were told, okay, if you guys were just going alone, we wouldn't mind, but if you came with Kangata, we will have a problem. I don't think Irungu Kangata was a... I think we were going to host a visitor that was going to mainstream this idea of Linda Mananchi in Central Kenya, or what I call Mount Kenya. We had a visitor, I think, from Muranga generally, who was to also accompany us and just give us solidarity. And you know, sometimes people show up as a solidarity visit and then make it a home.
Yeah. Oh, and that visit was not. I want to stick on that thing.
Of course, you see, what is happening is that Methu has actually been holding fort. So if today DCP wins, like a lot of us in Linda Mananchi want DCP to win, for reasons we'll talk about later on, that then Methu comes in a decorated general. He will actually come up as a man. You see now, the former deputy president can actually say, I didn't have to go to Kalou. I left the local senator. When he comes out, he's properly decorated. But then if you bring in other people, and like I've said, Linda Mananchi has got the surge operation mentality. You know, like when we come to this town, we will not be like, wewe shika pipeline, wewe shika Kasarani, alafu pole pole tuangushe Nairobi hapana. When Linda Mananchi comes to town, is that you hit it end to end. Because of course these are young people, they have got energy, they have got momentum. So somebody else
telling us when Linda Mananchi goes to a rally, their intro is, I came here like a wrecking ball.
That's it.
Gongai. Like where, for example? For example, where you've come out, you hit end to end.
No, where do we show up?
This is Linda Mananchi's, for example, entry into this area and compare with the other guys. Let's show us the difference.
If you've looked, I don't know what you guys do, but you guys are consumers of current affairs. But every time, let me first start with at macro level. At national level, Linda Mananchi is going to every part of the country uniformly, as a team, and moving. So the mobility, the multi-dimension approach to it. But even if we were to go, for example, to Busia, one of the differences the marked difference between Linda Mananchi and how other people are doing is that other people are going to actually be at a stationary place. One stationary place. But if we are going to say Busia, you start somewhere in Ukwala on the border of Busia and Siaya and drive through. I will also use another military term and say we do thunder runs. A thunder run. You know, like when you come into Nairobi, you cross
everybody. In fact,
end.
one of our complaints is that all you politicians now have now picked this thing off. You're crossing stuff from one area to another. If you look at what are they called, those guys? Broad-based.
They do the same thing.
They will start here, they'll be crossing over, doing several multiple rallies. If you look at the United Opposition, they'll say they are going to Mombasa, they will start at Machakos Junction, Mlolongo. They'll end up in Mombasa.
Everybody does that, so, but we know.
And they'll be doing it together. They'll have the Kalonzo will be there, Matiang'i will be there, JB will be there, Eugene will be there. You know, they'll all be there. You guys are few. You are leading lights. So we're talking about Sifuna, Orengo, Godfrey, Babu Owino, Caleb Amisi. One hand, we are done. That's why we can say that all of you are together. You can't be.
No, actually, if you were to compare the three centers of gravity today, political centers of gravity, it's Linda Mananchi that has got the highest number of what I would call principles. And Linda Mananchi is largely an aspirants movement and a people's movement. So you can't say that we are fewer. If you were to just look at the people at the apex, they're about 20.
How many?
You wouldn't say the same of, say, BBG. At the broad-based level, you have got the youth leader on one side, and you have got the president, and that's it. The other people have actually taken a back seat, including the PCS, Musalia Mudavadi, the SNA. Now you no longer hear of them. If broad-based was meeting, and the president speaks... No, she's actually... There were days when she was threatening to come to the front. She's retreated back to her position. So she's defending it from that particular end. But from broad-based, you only need to see two people and you are content.
Yeah, the broad-based is finished.
That the president and the
leader of ODM.
And the leader of ODM, that is done. If you go to United Opposition, slightly bigger, but it has now shrunk to just 3 people. Largely, you're going to see Rigathi Gachagua, you are going to see Matiang'i, and you're going to see Kalonzo Musyoka. Martha is busy, of course, fighting regional wars, which is actually good. Eugene?
I'd say it's the same thing. You see the way I've just done 5 fingers.
Yeah.
All right. Of course, we can add all this. We can add Karoli Omondi into the group of of Linda. We can add. I counted Caleb.
Hamisi.
Not even Caleb Hamisi. Now you'll tell us why Caleb Hamisi is appearing to be fighting Linda Mananchi. Let's go with Godfrey Osotsi, Edwin Sifuna, James Orengo, Babu Owino, and was that person?
Are we counting
There's Anthony
Muranga governor?
Kibageni, there's Gisai.
So now those
Kibagendi
ones,
and
Kibagendi.
No, you are othering very major people.
The Kisii senator. It's the same way you're othering the party leader of PLP.
Martha Karua.
It's the same way you're othering the party leader of Democratic Party. It's the same way you're othering the other party leaders there. You're
Eugene.
I'm saying that you're reducing it to those 3.
yeah.
No, actually, the United Opposition has party leaders in it. The Linda Mananchi group has the leading light is Edwin Sifuna and James Orengo and Godfrey Osotsi.
Where is Babu Owino, for example?
Na Babu Owino sasa tumeweka. Nimesema mkono moja tunajaza.
No, there are so many days.
Of course,
tunaenda tukiongeza.
As in, when you parade, and by there literally we parade
There's the
all of them.
Mavoko MP.
So you have chosen to actually just focus on those. But I'm saying, from where we sit today, there has not been ranking yet. So today
It's happening organically.
So wherever we go, you take lead. We are going to Taita Taveta on Saturday. Machako and the others will actually take lead. It's their area. So, but what I meant by Linda Mananchi doing thunderance is that you do reconnaissance in force. You show up in force, forcefully go across, and everywhere is equal. You do not have to mobilize people. You do not have to bunch people together so that you can talk to them. You go to Kitengela and just drive through. And it's, of course, that's why I think the people who take care of public order have got a problem with managing how Linda Mananchi goes about its business. But be that as it may, I think that eventually you cannot contest election from the way people are doing politics. And that is why Rigathi Gachagua, for example, did not want a new force showing up in town and, of course, stealing light. There is a way, of course, sometimes you've swept the house and somebody else comes in and makes a few touches and they steal the glory. Politics is also a game of perceptions. So he knew that probably the general he's put in place in Kalou might miss out on his colors when a new group of guys show up in town and they are more loud, probably more eloquent, they are more visible. That was going to, it wasn't sitting right with him. Yeah.
9 candidates on the ballot. Yeah. Why do you want the DCP candidate to win? Why does Linda Mananchi want the DCP candidate to win?
Like I said, a by-election is a referendum. Normally, voters use it to pass a message. From where I sit, I think that if you get the national sentiment, the general sentiment, as it were, and by the way, we need to actually be clear. Until now, we have not had a by-election. We have got this hope that today we will have a by-election. What we have had before are by-elections, B-U-Y.
Oh.
Yeah, we have had several by-elections.
Why are we calling them that?
Because, of course, we've seen the level of inducements, the bribery. We're talking about official bribery and everything else, to a point that I actually can say this confidently, that today, if the current political situation obtains, a member of parliament's best sacrifice to the people is not service, is actually to die or to probably create a vacancy. And in a country where people do not resign, the only other way of actually ensuring that things work is that you die. Because wherever there have been by-elections, we have seen a lot of goodies coming in. That's why I say that if that particular situation obtains longer...
It's a bit dark, but you're right, because there was a voter who said...
because look at this. Look at Maliba, for example. They received all goodies. You have seen what is happening in Kalou. And
I
so,
was just about to say, how is this not the biased of by-elections, BUI?
Because we
the
hope.
goodies that have been dished in Kalou, my word.
I know. So,
Much more than Malava.
I know hope is not a strategy, but we hold this hope against hope that the people of Kalou will be different because they have got a history of doing things differently. It may not be what we really think it is. I have just seen somebody say that there are no Gen Zs on lines in Kalou today, and I think that particular person who made that particular observation is not. Is a little bit biased. He could be an urban person because clothes don't make a man. So just because people are putting on Kalou like clothes does not mean that they are not Gen Zs. So
Also, Masa, but ni saa tatu jamani. Watu wamelala.
So we think that the 1995 event in Kipipiri would actually act out. Just after the first multi-party elections in 1992, there was the by-election in Kipipiri, which is just the neighboring constituency to Kalou. Parts of what is Kalou today were initially in Kipipiri. We had Kanu trying to actually register its putting in a lot of effort, and there was a lot of inducement like what we've seen today, including in those days, if somebody brought an electricity pole closer to you, you knew that light was coming. But of course, the people of Kipipiri in 1995 did that thing. They took the goodies and did everything else. After the elections, of course, the government of the day, the Kanu government, took away their electricity poles. So people still hold that this particular election could turn out that way. Because what we have seen, number one, is that this particular election should be a referendum to speak to the authorities today that they are not doing things right. To defend democracy as it were, because what we have today, what we've seen in the by-elections, except of course for Murwa Dikir people, and of course that is the disadvantage of being on the side of government, you are taken for granted. You remember when the lost son, the prodigal son, went away. When he came back, there was a serious party being done. But then the people at home, things didn't go so well. So the people in Murwa Dikir faced that prodigal son moment where elsewhere there is a lot of feasts, but when it comes home, it doesn't feel like it. That's why I think they're still projecting and rioting whatever they were doing yesterday in Wamunyoro. That particular group you saw there, it's still a protest that we did not see a feast at home the way we are seeing it elsewhere. So
Tulikuwa assumed.
Walituacha. We were taken for granted. So that's why there's a feeling that the 1995 Kipipiri moment could actually come back. Number one, to defend democracy. Number two, to just speak to the authorities that the way we are doing today is not actually how we should actually be doing politics. Because you have seen mattresses, you have seen money, you have seen, and the people of Kalou should actually be congratulated. They've conducted themselves very peacefully. As in the people themselves, there have been a lot of provocations, but we have to congratulate the people of Kalou for having been very peaceful. I know you don't make noise and you fight when you are eating. But again, we've also seen elsewhere where people fight over the feeding trough. So the people of Kalou have actually shown that you can eat and still be very calm.
And be very peaceful. You don't fight with food in your mouth.
But animals do. Dogs do fight over the feeding trough.
They do.
It's the nature of animals. All of them, including humans. When you're eating, you're fighting over eating. Why do you think we have all these political fights right now? They're all fighting over the trough, calling each other, this is dog called broad-based. This other dog is calling itself United. This other new puppy comes in there.
Puppy called Linda Mananchi. That it's loud. Speaking of dogs, guys, those little dogs you meet and you're expecting they'll be the gentlest. Usually are the roughest, and they will bark at you to no end.
It's more actually very interesting when those small dogs see the big dogs. Just people walking dogs. And like a small dog and the big dog comes in. Like a small dog makes all you'd think.
I hope you're not saying that Linda Mananchi is small. It's not.
No. I am not saying that Linda Mananchi is a small dog.
No.
But I'm just saying, small dogs bark.
They're so loud.
Whenever they see a big dog. I want to ask you about this. You said you see the people expressing themselves through the DCP candidates.
Yes.
Okay. Strategically, do you think that UDA is looking at a win in a different way
Yes.
in Kalou?
Yes, like I said, until now we have not had a by-election. What we have had are by-elections. So the nation hoped that there would be a by-election so that then we have got a referendum against government and the people. And then a message is passed that we have not liked how policies have been done. Midterm elections are always, like I said, a barometer. They are a referendum. So two things are expected to come out of this. Number one, for the united collective that is opposition, Kalou is where we draw the line. Of course, Article 101, 4, 5 are still in practice until probably sometimes in March when IBC cannot do a general election, 90 days to a general election. If anything ever happened in between, there could be another one. But then that's not how you make prayers. That's not going to happen, especially for somebody has to check out for this to actually happen. So this is the golden opportunity, number one, for government to actually, or rather UDA to actually say that we did not lose out entirely on Mount Kenya. We will be speaking about that. And then, of course, for the opposition, and that is why I say that the battle in Kalou is beyond Kalou, is beyond united opposition, is even beyond and bigger than DCP. Because the opposition collective hopes and expects that Kalou becomes the place where the opposition draws the line.
Right.
You know, at some point you must have that point of inflection, the point where you have to meet up. One day when I was younger and a little bit mad, not mad, but a little bit careless, we had a demonstration that didn't turn out so well. So we mobilized and there was but then the police took it serious because in my earlier days I used to cause a lot of problems.
and you guys are not serious.
No, in my earlier days as a boy in town, I caused a lot of problems. So the police knew that probably I was going to do the things I did in the past. So the police showed up. But you see, so my guys will then tell me, look at this, we are very few, but the police are more than us. A lot of people have run away. What do we do? So I asked them, you see, these are the police, and this is the media, and then this is us. So what more do you need? So that point of contact is what this by-election presents. That the opposition, the collective, this one is bigger than united opposition. Anybody that really wants the current government to actually get a point hopes that we draw the line here. And then it becomes the turning point where the tide changes. But for government, it's actually busy, of course, buying the whole phrasing and framing so that it looks like they are doing well, they are popular, and whatever you see out there is just noise, probably noise by small dogs like Eric was insisting. So for UDA, this is actually supposed to be a statement that we have not lost the mountain. The president argued the other day, I don't know whether it was with people in Embu, he was telling them that he came to the mountain himself. Partly he's right, and that yeye hakutafutiwa kura mlimani. So he will be here to make that particular point. But for the opposition, this is bigger than Rigathi Gachagua, bigger than Linda Mananchi, bigger than united opposition.
To show that the mountain is gone.
There are
when I was asking that,
Yeah.
sorry to just interject, I meant, do you think it's possible that UDA will also be looking at the margin? Should they lose the margin? Should they win the margin?
So far, like I've told you,
Because you see, if the narrative, like you've said, is the mountain is gone. Let's say the winner, let's say 40% of the 70,000 turn up to vote, so about 28,000, right? Winner gets 14,000, and then the second gets 10,000. Let's say the second is the UDA. Is that 10,000 not a significant statement? That in that mountain of yours, I have
40%. I
Yeah.
command 40% following.
partly yes. That for them is very, very important, that they will demonstrate and give confidence to their supporters from the mountain that it's not entirely as bad. You know, one of the reasons why UDA has to go all out and fight is that they have to strengthen the support of the leaders they have from that particular area, first of all. But I need to probably flip that and put it this way. normally this is how I look at 2022. 2022 William Ruto had 5 things that made him president. Number 1, he had the winning message. And very few of you can remember what the Azimio's message was in the last election.
Elf-Seta.
Yes. I do remember Elf-Seta.
Elf-Seta.
But everybody...
Every once in a while, I think... Babacare. Every once in a while, nasemanga, imagine sahi.
Tungekuwa tunakula hivi.
You have received.
Yeah. So, William Ruto had the winning message. Yeah. All of us remember Hustler versus Dynasty. All of us know bottom up. It was a prevailing message. Yeah. And number 2, he had 2 of Kenya's leading voting blocks. When I talk about blocks, I will just talk about Mount Kenya and Rift Valley. Yeah. They were on his side. Yeah. It actually matters because when I hear today people in government talk about the tyranny of small numbers, I know that is therapy, it's not strategy. Those are things they tell themselves to feel good for a simple reason that when we go to elections a lot of times, and this is real politic. There is what is ideal and there is a real politic. There are a lot of times it's actually just a coalition census and a lot of times it's actually ethnic, as hard as that is. So, and out of, I don't know whether it's 47 or today we're talking about 54 communities in Kenya, 10 communities make 89% of the population. So if anybody out there tells you the tyranny of small numbers, that is therapy they are giving themselves. So forget that. So once you have, so William Ruto had 2 major voting blocks, the entire Rift Valley and Mount Kenya on his side. Number 3, William Ruto had the church. I do not know if the Church of Jesus Christ, there could be churches of other people, is still with William Ruto today, seeing what is happening from Kariobangi, Witima, Kisumu, elsewhere. I think the church has learned a little bit of the fear of God. They have seen a little bit of the fear of God themselves. So I do not think that he still has the church. Number 3, of course, he had, number 4, not number 3. Number 4, he had money, a lot of money. Initially, we didn't know where it was coming. Sometimes you would think he printed the money. But Yakub Salah, the MP for Fafi, told us where that money comes from. At some point, you could remember what that means. And number 5, even with all these 4, the turning point was number 5. He had Moses Wetangula. Moses Wetangula is that definitive factor that he had. That the thing that made 50% plus 1, the very votes that made William Ruto president, was 233,000 votes, which came from Bungoma. And why do I say they came from Bungoma? In 2022, all counties voted the way they did in 2017, except Bungoma. So you can situate the 233,000 votes in Bungoma. So he has Moses Wetangula still today. But are the people of Bungoma still with Moses Wetangula now that we have got a younger person from that particular end? So so these are the 5 things that made William Ruto president. So does he still have Mount Kenya as a block? Because, by the way, if you're going to become president, you must have at least 2 of the top 5 voting blocks.
Which are the top 5?
The top 5 voting blocks. Number 1, you must have either, as in the top 5 voting blocks is Mount Kenya, you have Western, you have Rift Valley, you have Nyanza, and then, of course, you have, I don't want to go to communities, you have Eastern.
Lower Eastern.
Lower Eastern. You have those 5. Now, if the way we have looked at politics, and for those of us who've worked at the back end of politics and organizing, remains, is that until 2032, that is the first time you will be able to win the presidency without Mount Kenya. If the framework remains the same, wherever Mount Kenya will vote in 2027 is where the presidency will be. And if that is not true, then we will not see a lot of the investment and the simping by a president who doesn't simp and bow to anybody to Mount Kenya. He's kept the...
By win here, we mean that he gets a majority of the votes in
50
that
plus
region.
1 or...
Yes, so...
A majority of the votes in that region.
So the reason I say that is that in 2029, we expect Western to be at par. When I talk about Western, is that the Luhya vote will be at par with Mount Kenya. And if it gets a leadership that can put it together, then now you have got an either or of one of the big 5. And therefore, if you get another one from the big five, and you collect from elsewhere. I say that because there's the real politics and then there's the ideal politics that people talk about online. You know, a lot of these people who are speaking good English online, doing very good analysis and talking very ideologically, they still vote like their grandmothers in the village. They still, they don't change the way they vote. They still vote. Yes.
Like
a lot of people here, by the way, they will say all things. But during elections, they will call home and ask, "Huko mnapigaje?" So we will not run away from that. So anybody who is planning for election must also have that at the back of the mind.
You know, hey man, niko na maswali nyingi Arnold. There's that, then there's the fact that 2022, for the very first time, saw people unite behind a message, like you said. He had a winning message.
Yes.
He did have these voting blocks, like you said, but he also had a message, which was Hustler versus Dynasty. If we've already crossed that line, I don't think it's so far-fetched to say that we could cross it further with some other message.
Can I answer you with numbers just before you ask the next one?
Okay.
Because that one is an easier one. Number one, the biggest voting block for 2027 are millennials. Gen Zs will catch up, but in 2032, almost half of the voters today, in the registers it were, are millennials. And I'll tell you that the people of my generation are tired, of course, for very many ways, but they are not yet there. Their level of accountability is higher. There's a way we do things, but we overestimate. There is a lot of noise online. There is a lot of what we talk here. I'll tell you, places where we go, and you do not need to have a message. You just need to have money. We have sonkonized our politics to the point that him that has money, you just have to be overwhelming. You will buy the leaders, you will buy the gatekeepers, you will buy the voters, and then you do as you wish. So even as you speak about that, let's talk about the Gen Z moment. That probably you are inferring to when you come to, leave alone the
my thing was not even, it was
the
more Hustler versus Dynasty. Was us seeing campaigns take the shape of issues or ideas.
Yes, at that particular point, that was there. But like I've told you about the 5 things, it still took all these, and you still had to sneak in Moses Wetangula. So if, I don't know whether it was Azimio at that particular time or it was NASA, if NASA had managed their politics in the Senate differently, so that then Wetangula does not come out and say that it will be messy, there will be casualties. Of course, he had casualties eventually. His prophecy came to pass. If they had managed it differently, and we see that a lot of times today, that the way, for example, ODM has handled the schism in the party, it will have consequences, of course. We are already seeing the consequences. So, even with the message, like I'm saying, all of us can remember.
There's still Damu.
There was still
the idea that, or rather, so Kenya's development, whether it is on economic or even political, has been incremental. We make little steps. We are moving towards where you want us to go. So where we have been at a place where a message entirely shapes how a campaign goes out, and not who comes from where, which that was in 2022. That is a gift William Ruto gave to this country. We cannot take away from him. That it is possible to actually pitch and anchor a campaign of consequence. There are a lot of, there were campaigns in this country like Tunawe Smek and so many other, where people tried to push messages, but those messages did not really matter. So a campaign of consequence like 2022, based purely on an idea, but he still had to go with the traditional way of doing things. So we are headed there, but not yet.
Not yet there.
Sorry to interrupt,
some numbers.
What happens if the inflection point does not happen in all Kalou? Is it the first nail in the coffin to opposition as a whole?
You know, in strategy, you need to win a war without necessarily firing a shot. So the perception that should come from Kalou should be that the opposition, whatever you see, the sentiment you pick online and what you see everywhere makes sense. That is exactly the mood of the country. But then if it is forced the other way, there is another part to it. Your question is not simple. It's actually a little bit of a complicated one if you have to address it. Because number one, we are going to an election where, in my opinion, and from the sentiments I've picked, we are going to an election for the first time where people have very little confidence in the EMB, the Electoral Management Body. There is that.
Is it people that have little confidence, or it's politicians?
Well, politicians are people, and they speak for people. That's why they get elected. It's not easy. so there's a general feeling across the country that the EMB is giving the Kivuitu like vibes. They speak, they make a ruling, and you're like, God, how do you say that what we have seen in Maliba and all Kalou is not bribing and voter treatment? So why do we have 8 laws on elections from the Constitution, the Elections Act, IBC Political Parties Act, the General Regulations on Elections, Elections Offences Act, coming all the way? Why do we have a legal framework, a policy legal framework with 8 authorities, and you say that what we have seen, that story was actually in The Nation. You look at that story and you are like, no, this is not where we are going. So the question you ask is this.
Yes. I can challenge that because we were with the IBC yesterday, but just finish first.
I'm just telling you that from where we sit,
Yes.
IBC, when you look at them and when they speak, you get anxiety. You don't get confidence. They should be speaking confidence.
Okay.
For the first time, I actually feel that we actually underestimated who Chebukati was, because he had a spine. When you look at this guy speak, you look at Cherara 4, probably Promax. There is just the lack of confidence. So the question you raise would be easy to answer if you do not look at other factors like, number one, the IBC, who is the referee. All of us know, like, there's a certain team today in the World Cup where all of us feel, you need team ya FIFA, you need team ya ofisi. And hata wakitia bidii. And even if they worked so hard, there is a feeling. Then there's the other part. I don't know whether you can remember the ruling that was done in Maliba, in Kakamega, on the Maliba by-election. As in, even on the one that Seth Panyako challenged the
petition.
The petition. If you look at the ruling that was made, it sounds like IBC. So you're looking at a judiciary. And you remember that the judiciary should be the hope for the last man, that when everything else falls, we will run to the shrine of justice, which is judiciary, and we will at least have justice.
And the judiciary will have spine when it says what you want.
So once judiciary starts to sound like
the judiciary
an IBC,
does not say what you want it to say, then it sounds spineless.
No, not really. There is a constitution that all of us aspire to, or rather look up to. Our confidence, we hold this confidence in the constitution that it will defend us when everything else falls. So when we feel like a ruling is a desecration to the constitution, then where do you go to? That's what I'm saying. So we are going to an election where there is this low confidence in the judiciary. Then we have got an IBC that does not inspire confidence.
I reject that thinking and that saying, especially
you're prepping us mentally.
Especially on a platform such as this one. It's a national platform. You guys know, I've said this many times on the show. When we publicly, frame messaging like this, then we are being irresponsible.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying, though, Arnold. Look, the Electoral Management Body acts in a certain way, all right?
We expect it to act according to law.
Yes, that we created it to act in a certain way.
Yeah.
It acts in a certain way. If dissatisfied with the way it has acted, there is an avenue to challenge that.
Correct.
Which is
the judiciary. The judiciary has several layers of challenging a decision. Several layers. So that if one layer, you feel dissatisfied with the thinking of one layer, you go and challenge it in a different layer. And so on and so forth. And there's a reason why we've put all those things. Is to address those feelings. All right, not just in an election, but in all things. Now, when we start now saying, but this thing does not work, but this thing does not work, but this thing does not work, we start creating a narrative that we do not want to have these institutions in place. We said that about Kivuitu. We said that about Isaac Hassan. We said that about Chebukati. We are saying that now about Ethekon. And it is just the politicians that say that. This Chebukati that you say had a spine was also facing the same kind of questions in by-elections that happened before 2022 general election, where there was shootout. which is where an MP is alleged to have opened fire and shot somebody in a by-election, where people went and invaded a polling center and kicked out a woman presiding officer from a classroom. All those things happened. And what do people say? This IEBC is spineless, we don't have confidence, and then they go into an election and they amplify that again. It is a dangerous trend. And we owe it to ourselves to have that responsibility of saying, it's an institution, we shall challenge the institution and the thinking of the institution. And I respect you for saying, I'm questioning the thinking of the institution. But I object to you saying, it now brings in the issue of confidence.
I will qualify what I said and also actually appreciate what you are raising. The reason why we speak now before fact is that we've lived through this cycle before. And an election in this country is still quite edgy. When we get to the election, there's not so much reasoning after that. Eric, I don't know where you were in 2007, but I was a teenager or a young person with a
I
brain,
covered the election.
with a brain to know that there was polarization. There were complaints before the elections.
Yes.
And we actually glossed over it. We tried to make it normal. So when we normalize reckless statements, reckless acts like what we see today, we are then telling people that we cannot depend on IEBC. That's what we are doing today. When we raise these issues, we are telling IEBC, put your house in order. And my statements are not isolated. They are not unique to me. It is a sentiment you can pick generally once it goes out there. So what are we trying to say? That there are statements that IEBC is making, there are actions they are taking that are casting doubt. And that's why I use the word anxiety, that when they speak and they make decisions, they do not inspire confidence. They have got time to do that. An EMB, like a referee, is supposed to give us confidence to the point that I am going to this particular game and I'll be fair. I will not have to. I will keep to the rules and expect that I will get justice out of it. These issues people are raising now are important, that we would rather talk about them now rather than have long reports and statements in 2027. So the issues people are pointing out now, what we are raising about the judiciary, and even lawyers are raising issues about, like it's okay. There was, a court ruling, for example, states that we saw acts of bribery, but materially it does not change the fact. What are we doing? We are normalizing. The same thing has been happening, probably far removed from that. There's another agency that I've not spoken about too, but it's very, very important. It's the police, for example, the security agencies. Once they started augmenting goons, I call it informalization of coercive power. Once they started normalizing goons down outside the Nation Center, you saw goons and police working together in 2024. It then will repeat itself in 2025. All of a sudden, people do not consider the police as neutral arbiters. So, and you see, what do we expect? We expect that the police, if there is any problem, we are going into this election, we expect that the police will be neutral. Anyone will actually go to them. But once they start acting like the ordinary men in Chris Brown's book on Germany's Second World War, then you have got a problem. When you see there's then the people versus the police, which should not be the case. So before IBC and the judiciary get to the level where the police already have gotten, because every time you see the CS interior speaking, you are like this is just the leader of the government vigilante speaking. And nowadays he does not even address himself. I saw my friend Fanyamambo saying that the CS is just busy when he wakes up in the morning, Rigathi Gachagua this, Rigathi Gachagua that. So that's all he's doing, is the CS for answering Rigathi Gachagua and not the CS for internal security. So, Eric, I am not having a problem with IBC as it were, but I'm raising issues that people are speaking to. Let them inspire confidence. We have got a very confrontational EMB. They're even managing politics instead of managing elections.
If people didn't have confidence, the kind of queues we are seeing in Kalou would be different.
They do not show up because of IBC. They are showing up because of other motivations.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Asante,
Arnold. We shall engage in this some other time.
Again.
The by-election in Kalou continues. South Rift editor Bridget Ngana is there. We'll be getting more updates from her throughout the day on NTV, so keep it locked on NTV. For now, Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time, takes a break until tomorrow. But we are going to KICC on NTV. Manake kuna Skills Up Africa.
Kuna Skills Up Africa, where we're focusing on producing work-ready graduates. Are they prepared for the future of work? Well, tune into that. Yesterday was day 1, today's day 2. Yeah.
The shifters were also at KICC yesterday, on vibe shift.
Oh, the
so
shift. I was like, the shift. What was happening? Yes. And they on 96.3 Nation FM Vibe Shift with Claudia Naisaba, and of course Brian Aseli continues. Join us tomorrow for another edition of Fixing the Nation and TV.